In 1940, aerial bombing destroyed almost the entire historic center. A city shaped over centuries disappeared in a single day. The Rotterdam we know today was built on top of the ruins. Like Amsterdam, Rotterdam rose during the Dutch Golden Age, not as a city of grand palaces or global finance, but as a city of movement. The Grotto Markt, the Lorenskirk, and many more remarkable locations. A city built around work, water, and trade. Welcome to History Alive. I'm Mark. In this video, I use modern AI tools to bring historic paintings, maps, and engravings to life. The goal isn't just to look at the past, but to bring it alive, to move through these scenes, shift perspective, and see the city as it once was. If this fascinates you, please like, subscribe, and share. And let's keep history alive together. We'll begin here, with an old large wall map of Rotterdam in 1694, created by Johannes de Vaux and Romeyn de Hooghe, showing the city during the Dutch Golden Age with detailed activity, bird's-eye view, and precise depiction of important buildings. This image takes us back, long before the Rotterdam we recognize today. It isn't a perfect reconstruction, but it shows the city as it existed then, tightly built along the Maas, shaped by trade, labor, and the constant presence of the river. And in this video, this map will guide our journey. Rotterdam begins at the river Maas. Long before it became a city of streets and markets, this place existed as a point of control along a vital waterway connecting the North Sea to the interior of Europe. The Maas was not simply a route for ships. It was a corridor for goods, people, and information, and its flow determined where settlement could survive and where it could grow. On the 1695 drawing, the relationship between city and river is immediately clear. Rotterdam does not sit back from the water. It presses tightly against it, with quays, buildings, and defenses aligned along the river's edge. One of the earliest points where this control took shape was Hooghe. Located directly along the Maas, this site marks one of Rotterdam's oldest fortified riverfront positions. Its placement allowed the city to monitor and influence movement along the river, linking defense directly to commerce. At Hooghe, trade and security were inseparable. This was not a quiet edge of the city, but one of its most controlled and closely watched points. Ships approaching Rotterdam were forced to slow as they passed this section of the river. Here, vessels were clearly visible from the shore, their crews exposed, their cargoes in full view. Sails were lowered, lines prepared, and voices carried across the water as instructions were shouted between ship and quay. For sailors, this was a moment of transition. Passing to Hooghe meant leaving the open river behind and entering the regulated space of the city. Movement was no longer free. Goods could be inspected, documents checked, and access controlled. For those on land, the river here was never still. The creak of rigging, the slap of water against hulls, and the constant movement of boats created an atmosphere of tension and attention. This was a place where information arrived with the tide, news, prices, and rumors traveling alongside cargo. As Rotterdam grew and river traffic increased, the limits of this early point of control became clear. More ships, larger vessels, and heavier loads placed pressure on the city's ability to manage both trade and defense from a single position. In response, the city extended its presence along the river, which we can see on the 1695 map by Johannes de Vaux. Further downstream, beyond the older river defenses, the city extends its reach to a second point of control, to New Hoofd. By the late 17th century, Rotterdam had outgrown the limits of its earliest river defenses. River traffic had increased, ships were larger, and the volume of goods passing the city demanded broader oversight. The construction of Nieuw Hoofd reflects this shift. It extended Rotterdam's control along the river, allowing movement and trade to be monitored across a longer stretch of the Maas. Seen together, Oude Hoofd and Nieuw Hoofd framed the riverfront as a controlled threshold rather than a single checkpoint. They mark Rotterdam's transition from a modest river settlement into a growing port city shaped by trade, security, and expansion. Trade formed the foundation of Rotterdam's economy. The city functioned through movement of goods, information, and people, rather than display or ceremony. We return to the 1695 map by Johannes de Vaux to locate De Boers, positioned near the commercial heart of the city. At De Boers, Rotterdam's commercial exchange, merchants gathered to conduct business beyond the physical handling of cargo. Here, shipping schedules were discussed, prices negotiated, insurance arranged, and contracts agreed upon. Information often moved faster than goods themselves, allowing traders to respond quickly to changes in supply, demand, or political conditions abroad. Although smaller than Amsterdam's exchange, De Boers played a crucial role in Rotterdam's trading network, linking local merchants to regional and international markets. Returning to the map again, just a short distance away lies De Wijsmarkt. This was a place of constant motion and daily urgency. Fish brought in from the Maas and the North Sea arrived at dawn, often sold straight from the catch before the day fully began. Boats unloaded their cargo quickly, knowing that freshness meant value. Prices shifted by the hour as supply changed and buyers competed. Voices filled the market, fishermen calling out their haul, traders bargaining, and city officials overseeing weights and measures. Speed determined profit, and hesitation meant loss. De Wijsmarkt supplied Rotterdam's population with fresh food, but it also supported a wider network of fishermen, porters, traders, and market sellers whose livelihoods depended on the rhythm of the river and sea. Back on the map, we move toward De Markt, also known as the Grote Markt, one of the city's central open spaces. In 1622, a statue of Desiderius Erasmus was placed along the eastern side of the square. Erasmus was a Renaissance humanist, scholar, and one of Europe's most influential thinkers, born in Rotterdam in the 15th century. His writings emphasized education, moral reform, and critical thought, and by the 17th century, he had become a lasting symbol of the city's intellectual identity. The square functioned as more than a marketplace. It was a meeting place, a space for news and rumor, and a setting for public announcements and civic life. On market days, the Grote Markt drew together merchants, farmers, craftsmen, and residents from across the city, filling the square with movement and sound. In this space, economic activity and social life overlapped, making the market a central part in Rotterdam's everyday existence. Returning once more to the map, we follow the river eastward to De Boompjes. Along this tree-lined promenade stood the East India House of the Dutch East India Company, serving as both office and warehouse for the Rotterdam Chamber of the VOC. It was here that voyages were administered and Asian goods entered the city's commercial system. The complex backed onto the sheepmaker's haven, directly linking administration to shipbuilding and outfitting. The Boompjes itself was a prestigious riverside promenade lined with linden trees and bordered by the homes of prominent merchant families, wealth built on overseas trade. Together, these locations formed a connected system. Global commerce entered through the harbor, decision sea house, and everyday life unfolded in the markets. Trade in Rotterdam was not confined to a single landmark. It was embedded in the city's streets, waterfronts, and institutions. Rotterdam's authority was exercised quietly, through administration rather than spectacle. We return to the 1695 map by Johannes de Vaux and locate Het Stad Hooghe, positioned near the civic heart of the city. At Het Stad Hooghe, Rotterdam was governed. This was the center of civic decision-making, where magistrates and officials oversaw taxation, law, public order, and the daily management of a city shaped by trade and constant movement. Disputes were settled here, regulations enforced, and the framework that allowed commerce to function was maintained. Returning to the map, just nearby stands Het Gemeentelandshuis van Schieland. This building served as the administrative seat of the Regional Water Authority. For Rotterdam, water management was not a secondary concern, but a matter of survival. From here, officials coordinated the maintenance of dikes, canals, and drainage systems, protecting the city and its surrounding land from flooding. In a landscape shaped as much by human intervention as by nature, control over water meant control over the city's future. Back on the map, closer to the river, lies Het Admiralteitshof, Maritime power and protection were coordinated here as part of the Admiralty of the Maas. This institution linked Rotterdam's commercial life to naval defense and maritime law. Matters of shipping security, convoy protection, privateering, and naval administration were handled within these walls, ensuring that trade routes remained protected and regulated. Together, these institutions formed the administrative backbone of Rotterdam. They governed the city not through grandeur, but through systems, legal, hydraulic, and maritime, that sustained daily life and long-distance trade. Rotterdam's prosperity depended on its ability to defend itself. We return to the map to locate De Doelen, a key institution in the city's defensive structure. At De Doelen, Rotterdam's civic militia gathered and trained. These were citizen soldiers, merchants, craftsmen, and residents responsible for maintaining order and protecting the city in times of unrest or external threat. The institution combined military readiness with social life, serving as a place for meetings, ceremonies, and communal identity. Participation in the militia reinforced a shared sense of responsibility. Defense was not solely the task of distant authorities or professional armies, but a duty embedded within the city's population itself. Returning to the map for the last time, one building rises above the rest, the Lorenskirk. Religion played a central role in Rotterdam's social structure, and the Lorenskirk dominated the city's skyline. As the main Protestant church, it served not only as a place of worship, but also as a civic landmark, visible from across the Maas and from nearly every quarter of the city. Within its walls, the city marked moments of faith, gathering, and remembrance. It stood at the heart of Rotterdam's identity, spiritual, social, and communal. Unlike most of the city, the Lorenskirk survived the bombing of 1940. Though heavily damaged, it was restored in the decades that followed, rising again from the ruins that surrounded it. Today, it remains one of the few places where Rotterdam's past is still physically present. And in some places, the city's shape itself has endured, even when the buildings have not. Along De Boompjes, the line of the river remains unchanged. Though the historic houses and warehouses are gone, the curve of the Maas and the openness of the waterfront still echo the Rotterdam of centuries past. Another building that still stands today is the Gemeentelands Huis van Schieland, a reminder that fragments of the old city remain embedded within the modern one, and the Rotterdam we see now. This is Rotterdam today. Glass, concrete, straight lines. Almost nothing here is older than 80 years. On May 14th, 1940, this city was erased from the air. In less than 15 minutes, centuries of streets, houses, and harbors disappeared beneath fire and smoke. Very few buildings survived. Even fewer people remember what Rotterdam looked like before. This video tried to give you a glimpse of Rotterdam as it once was, during the Golden Age, before destruction reshaped the city forever.